Before we go and wrap up our final segment of Ask David, we turn things over to Tommy for a little Ask David. Tommy, what do you got for David here?
All right, hey David, I got some good questions for you.
Let's go to Tommy in Florida with this question.
Yeah, these are real questions. I genuinely do not know the answer to these questions, and I was hoping to pick your brain a little bit. And if it's gets into too intellectual property from your race team, just say so. But it all started off with 3 questions, and then it turned into like note to note to note to note. So they're cool questions. So first off, my first question is, how often does the car react differently than what you planned on, like on the first rollout of practice? Now let me touch on this for a quick second. I'm not digging on any digs at Bobby Daughter. They're a respectable team and they know what they're doing. I'm just saying, after you guys had your meeting and everybody's agreed, like, hey, this is how we're setting it up. And you know, you've raced a lot of races this year with the same team. I've always raced with a different team this race, a different team this race. So I've never had a baseline. Is there a baseline? How many times when you first roll out of practice is the car completely different than what you guys thought it was? Not from a bad setup from Bobby, but just, you know, just a different than what you guys had anticipated on.
You know, not that often, because when you roll out to practice, you got brand new tires. And depending on what track it is, you know, I've been racing at a lot of these racetracks for a long time, and I know the feel that I want to feel. You know, when I arc it in the corner, I need the thing to be underneath me where I can arc it. You need it to rotate. You need it when you turn that steering wheel, you need it to react. And then the drive up off the corner, I mean, you need to drive up off the corner. But you know, a lot of tracks, 1.5 mile tracks where you're carrying a lot of speed. You know, I mean, you're
so pretty much every race, you're not too far off.
No, you're not too far off. It's when you start losing your fuel load and your tires start wearing out, then you can understand what you really have. You know, the first 6, 7, 8 laps, you know, it's almost like a mock-up qualifying run. You know, I know right on the first lap. Sometimes I know the first corner. You know, if my car is really good or not. You know, and but there's been times, you know, all racers, when you go in a corner, when you get up to speed, you take it off in corner 1, it doesn't react like you want it to react. You're like, whoa, something ain't right. You know what I mean? So it's not always perfect like you would hope it is. And then sometimes you got to run an extra lap just to make sure that you didn't do anything crazy. And then the second lap, it does the same thing. Then it's time to pull into the garage and say, hey, guys, something ain't right. It's too free on entry, or it won't turn in the center. And a lot of times you can dive off in the corner at 190 miles an hour. And next thing you know, you got the wheel turned, but the thing's going laterals, going up against the wall because it's sitting on the splitter. There's no load on the front tires because the car is on the splitter. You know what I mean? And that happens every once in a while, you know. So, you know, you know the feel you're looking for. I do, because I've been to these racetracks so many times. And to be honest with you, it's not always what you think it's going to be. You know what I mean? You just never know.
Where I come from is I've always every race I'm with a different team, and sometimes I show up and it's right under me and we're just a little off, and other times I've showed up and it's been way off. So I was just trying to say, ask somebody who's raced with the same team for many races if you know what I was getting at. So thanks for answering that.
Absolutely, and it ain't always perfect from the start. You know what I mean? And yeah, and
okay, that's good news to me because I'm not used to having that.
Absolutely.
Okay, what's the next question?
My next question was falling into that. How predictable has the tire fall off during the race been throughout the 22 races you've done compared to how you planned it to be for the race? Has it been kind of close, kind of what you guys planned it to do, or is every fall off different than what you guys kind of plan on?
Yeah, every racetrack's different because you use a different compound, different number. The tires built different for different races, you know. And tire fall off is good. Sometimes throughout practice and throughout the first stage of a race, there's a lot going on in a race. You're paying attention who put on tires, who pitted, how much faster they are than you. But tire fall off is good because tire fall off for everybody is good. You just don't want yours to fall off as much as everybody else's. But
Yeah.
my
question would
much,
be, let's say you're going to Texas and you plan for it to be, hey, we're gonna get 20 laps out of this tire. Is it usually around, like, you plan a different number for each track? I get that, but each track you go to, has it been around what you guys planned for on the?
Well, yeah, I believe it has. I'm not always involved in the pit stop strategy. I'm involved with a lot of stuff with our team, but I think most racetracks, it's equal for all. The tire is going to fall off. It's going to fall off within 30 laps, fall off big, where you lose 2 to 3 seconds of, from the time the tire was brand new. But that's like that for everybody. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And
okay, so you can kind of predict how the tire is going to act. It's not super unpredictable.
No, it's not.
Okay.
Yeah. It's pretty standard. It's nothing. To answer your question, this year in 2022, I have not used tires that have been very surprising to how they fall off or didn't fall off. So it's pretty much the same as what we
that's good news,
anticipated them being. Yeah, absolutely.
Like I said, the people that I've never had, I didn't know the answer to the question because I haven't had some baseline. So that falls into my next question that you just answered. If I'm gonna, so basically nowadays, I'm very familiar with the front shocks, the rear shocks, how the car acts with, I can feel the difference between cross weight in the center. This is a communication question I have for you and I really don't know the answer to this question. And it's kind of like a 1, 2, or 3 level on how you communicate with your crew chief or your spotter or whoever's the car chief. If I was going to go into turn 1 and let's say New Hampshire, and I've already pre-planned my line with my crew chief, I've planned my apexes, I planned my steering input, how my turning patterns, my lifting patterns, my braking patterns, and we have all that set. But if I go into turn 1 and I follow what I'm supposed to do, I can tell if I'm loose on entry because my front end moved in, and I can also tell if I'm loose on entry because my rear end moved out. I would say, hey, look, I need to add a little bit more bump on my right front shock so it keeps the front end under me just for that split second until I dive in. Are you talking back to your crew chief? And this is in practice. Are you talking back to your crew chief on that level saying, hey, I believe we need more front bump on the right? Are you saying, hey, I got too much brake in the back? Or are you just regular characteristics of, hey, it's loose on entry, the front, or it's loose on entry, the rear? How deep do you go in practice? If that's kind of what I'm getting at.
I'll let my crew chief do his job, and that's a great question because at New Hampshire, when you dive into turn 1, dude, I'm going in there with a lot of speed, heavy on the brakes, and I drive in pretty deep, use the brakes, get off the brakes. Then I need that thing to rotate. It needs to cut like I want it to cut, and as it's rotating, I'm feeding it the throttle. And man, it needs to react. It needs to have good forward bite. It needs to rotate like I want it. Entry, you can't be loose on entry. Sometimes you have been loose on entry, and you can either, the bump, you can tow the right front, you can tow it out an 1/8 inch, that'll fix it. But there's several things you can do to tighten you up your race car on entry and loud on entry into the corners. But man, I'm not being the crew chief. I'm just telling my crew chief, hey, I'm loose on entry. We need to fix it. And let's fix it first. We come in, we'll make a change. And if I can get in the corner good, then I can get that thing to turn and I can shoot off the corners. But I don't tell them how to fix it. I just tell them what the race car is doing. When I get to them, I expect when I get to them, they'll make the right adjustments. We get back on the racetrack, and then we fix on entry, because I don't care who you are. You got to be able to get into the corner on any racetrack. If you can't, if you're loose, you're not going to have a great race. If you get in the corner and your race car won't turn, you're screwed there too. So yeah, but I'm not only time. Sometimes during the race, if I'm tight in the middle or my forward bite ain't where I want it on exit of the corner, and we tried something, I'm communicating with the crew chief. Hey, you dropped air pressure on the right front. You dropped the track bar. I would tell you to put the track bar up, try wedge, do this, but I'm communicating. We're talking together, but I'm not really telling them how to fix it. At times I had suggested something, because in past races, years past, I remember doing this and it made the car much better, and the car would react to what I needed it to do. So yeah, but no, I'm not telling the crew chief how to fix my race car. I'm just telling them what it's doing, and it's their job to give me what I need.
Okay, thank you. Because I have a couple Xfinity teams that have approached me, and I was just, to run if I can't do my own thing next year. So I really didn't know where I'm supposed to be at on the such, how some of the other teams are doing it. So thanks for answering that. I appreciate it.
Well, I can tell you, you don't, if you're at Texas Motor Speedway, at Martinsville, Virginia, you don't want to be loose getting in the corner. You want that thing underneath you where you can get in the corner deep, maybe a little bit deeper, use the brakes, get off the brakes. You need the thing to turn in the center, rotate. And as it's rotating, you need to get on that freaking gas pedal, and you need to shoot off those corners. You want to keep as much momentum in the center of the corner as possible. Mm-hmm. And then, you want all the speed you can have coming off the corner, and, you got entry, middle, and exit, you know what I mean? And if you can't get in the corner, nothing else matters. But yeah, those three things apply. I don't care what kind of racetrack it is. You got to be able to get in the corner. Cars got to rotate in the center, and you got to exit. You got to have a good exit, and it's pretty basic, but I've never been a driver to tell my crew chief what they need to do to fix it. I just tell them what it's doing, and hopefully when I get back out the next time, it's fixed.
Okay.
Sure, very good.
Sure. Hey, thanks for your time, David. I really appreciate it a lot.
No, man, thank you, Tommy. It's been awesome, dude.